Alright, welcome everybody. This tutorial is designed to go over how to make your game character collide with something like a coin for collection purposes, as well as how to prevent your character from just falling through the scene or through the scene floor. So if you see my example here on the screen, this is showing a reproduced scene of Super Mario Bros. Level 1. And I just went through and made this background artwork in Adobe Illustrator. Although there are tons of programs that are out there for free that you could use to draw with, like Inkscape or GIMP or so on. So I'm not going to go over the artwork. I'm going to assume you already know how to do that for this video. What I have in here is I have Mario and the coins we've seen thousands of times while playing Super Mario Bros. So he's going to be able to go through and collide with the coin, collect it, and then eventually in several parts of this video series be able to see a label on the screen. So Mario is just a two-dimensional artwork file that I, like I said, made in Illustrator. And for my character over here on the right, when you bring in your artwork, it automatically comes with transform properties. We already have a sprite render, which in your sprite render, this would be a great time to determine if you want to change the sorting level layer for your object so that it's layered properly on the screen in front or behind objects. I already have a character move script. I have another video posted over how do you make a character move script. There are tons of ways to do it, but I'm going to assume you already know how to move your character left and right and up and down. I've also attached the audio source, which is the file that will be played whenever Mario collides with the coin. So the way Unity is set up, you need to make your character have essentially a bag full of sound effects that it can play whenever it needs them. So they refer to these as audio sources. The audio source I have is labeled SMB Coin for Super Mario Bros. Coin. And you can get sound effects free all over the web from several legitimate sources as long as you don't intend to profit from your game. If you're going to make a for-profit game, you really want to make sure that the website license says that it can be used for profit, or pay someone to make sound effects for you or make them yourself. So the website that I have my students use for educational purposes to get free sound effects is actually freesound.org. And they allow you to go through there and search, find sound effects that will work for your game, and you can test them out and then download them. I always tell students that unless it's background music, choose sound effects that have less than a second or less than 3 seconds worth of duration time, because you don't want the coin sound effect playing 5, 10, 15 seconds after you collided with the coin. It'll get very irritating and also confusing to the game player. But once you download your sound effects from your website, you just drag and drop them into a sounds folder. This is also a great time if you need to rename any of your sound effects to shorter lengths, so you can slowly double click and rename them. Sometimes when you get them from websites, they can have really long file names, and that just takes up space. A little easier to read if you just shorten them. And you can also name them something that makes more sense. Instead of just having a long name like this one, I can just say it's Super Mario Bros. Coin. So again, that sound effect, which we'll deal with last in this series, I just drag and drop it on top of my character so that when we're ready to play the sound, it's available. Also, by default, when you bring sound effects into Unity, it has a play on check option available to it. And play on sound on awake means that if you were to, excuse me, that's a little loud. If you were to play the sound effect, it is going to, if you were to play the scene, it's automatically going to make the sound effect show up, and that's not quite what we want. Let me go in here for just 1 second, and I'm going to turn down the volume from my background music so you guys are not blasted again. Okay. So again, I always say uncheck play on awake unless it's your background music. And our coin music is not background music. It will only play when we hit the coin. Okay, what else does your character need? It's going to need a rigid body if you don't already have one. The rigid body is what allows your character to have physics forces applied to it, such as jump and move left and right. Again, my character movement script, which is another tutorial video, walks you through how to move a character. But I always tell my students in a two-dimensional game to check freeze rotation under constraints for Z, because I don't want my character to collide with a coin or collide with bricks and then just tumble over and fall. So that keeps it upright. And what we need to do now is we need to make it so that my character doesn't just fall through the floor. Okay, so I have a horizon here and a ground, and I don't want him to fall through. So what I need to do is on my background, I need to make sure that my background has a box collider on it, and that my box collider is actually along my horizon. Okay, so you can actually click on Edit Collider and resize it to get it just right. And in this case, I'm going to need to expand it over some because I don't want it to fall through when you get to a certain part of the level. You can add multiple box colliders onto a background image or even as empty objects by saying empty object and then adding a box collider and putting it wherever you want. Box colliders are really important to prevent you from falling through platforms as well. I have box colliders on them. And if you want to make it to where your character can fall through a ditch, which I don't have one in this scene, you would just end one collider to your left, start a new one to your right, and then the character would fall through the gap between the colliders. So again, a box collider is really critical to have on your scene if you want to prevent him from being able to fall vertically through items in a two-dimensional game. Okay, so I have a box collider on my background. On my character, I'm going to need two box colliders. Let's deal with the obvious one first. Just a regular box collider 2D. That will now prevent my character from falling through the ground. Okay, so now if he jumps up, he will no longer fall through, and that's because the collider that is around my character is actually colliding with the one on the ground. And so the two colliders prevent any additional physics forces or gravity from making your character move downward. Okay, so that's a box collider on your character, and you can actually edit the box collider on your character if you want to make it more precise by doing the same thing we did with the background, which is edit collider. I can bring it a little more narrow. Maybe I will only want to be in his nose, and I'm not worried so much about his feet, and I can bring it down all the way around if I want to. And zooming in makes that easier as well. Now the reason we're going to add a second box collider on our character is because I want to be able to now detect a collision with the coins. I don't want to jump into a coin and then the coin goes flying off the screen. I want the collision to determine if I hit the coin and then destroy the coin upon collision. So the first collider prevents me from falling through platforms to the ground. The second one is going to be set to is trigger, so I can actually detect the collision with the coin and then impose a script on it that will make the coin disappear or destroy and then update a label. Okay, so you notice if I put the second box collider on with is trigger, essentially it'll look like nothing has changed. It still won't fall through. Now I need to make it to where if I hit a coin, it will actually make a coin sound effect play as well as make the coin disappear. Okay, now I'm going to assume you already have a coin or a ruby or whatever you want to use in your game. For your coin, let me go down to my one I haven't applied anything to. For my coin, I do not need a rigid body because my coin is never going to move. Okay, at least in my game it's not. You may make it to where they can bounce or move. Mine's static on the screen, stays in one place. So no rigid body, but I do need a box collider to detect collisions. And the common question I get is, okay, Mr. Young, do I need to make this collider is trigger or leave it alone? Well, again, if you don't set it to is trigger, what happens is that you will actually be able to jump up on top of your coin. It treats it like it's a ground object or a set of bricks. So I don't want to use a regular collider on something I'm going to collect. If you're going to collect it or use a script on it that says something happens, it's best if you use is trigger. Okay? Now if I go and I collide with that particular coin, you'll be able to jump right through it. And that's exactly what I'm aiming for. I want to now apply a script to that collision that says, hey, make the coin disappear and play the music. And that's what we'll take a look at in the second video, is how do you make a script that upon the collision of Mario and your coin plays a sound effect, destroys the coin or removes it from the scene, and then updates a label up here on the top of the screen that says how many coins you've collected. That'll be in our next video in part 2.